Good day everyone, I am Angela Micaela S. Magaya, a science major, and today I'll be presenting a story that holds a significant place in French literature, The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo. Before we read the story, let's first get to know its author, Victor Marie Hugo. Victor Marie Hugo was born on February 26, 1802 and died on May 22, 1885. He is a novelist, a poet, and a playwright, or someone who writes plays for the theater. Aside from his literary achievements, Victor Hugo was also deeply involved in politics. He used his voice to advocate for the poor and the oppressed, strongly opposed the death penalty, and was even exiled or was forced to leave the country for 19 years because of his resistance to the rule of Napoleon III. So wala siya kauyon sa leadership ni Napoleon because the emperor ruled like a dictator. Now that we know more about Victor Hugo's life and beliefs, let's take a look at some of his most famous works. Two of his best-known novels are The Hunchback of Notre Dame and Les Miserables. Both of these stories have been turned into popular movies, but we'll focus on The Hunchback of Notre Dame. The novel is structured into 11 books, which are further divided into a total of 62 chapters. Let's meet the characters who bring the story to life. Let's begin by introducing the first three main characters: Quasimodo, the hunchback bell ringer of Notre Dame; La Esmeralda, the beautiful and kind-hearted gypsy girl; and Phoebus, the brave captain of the king's archers. Next, we have Dom Claude Frollo, the conflicted archdeacon torn between his faith and his obsession. Then there's Pierre Gringoire, a struggling poet and playwright. And finally, Paquette La Chantefleurie, the mother of Esmeralda. Here is a summary of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. In 15th century France, a young woman named Paquette La Chantefleurie gives birth to a daughter, Agnes. One day, the baby is abducted by Roma or gypsies, and in her place, they leave a deformed infant. Paquette goes mad with grief, becomes reclusive, and dedicates her life to mourning her lost child while cursing the Roma she believes responsible. The Roma, sometimes called gypsies, are a group of people who travel from place to place and have their own culture. The Roma lived in places like Paris even though they were seen as outsiders because they were a nomadic people, meaning they traveled from place to place instead of living permanently in one spot. They often settled near cities or towns to find work, trade, or shelter. But because they were different and didn't follow the usual rules of society, many people didn't accept them. This made them outsiders in the eyes of the locals, even though they lived among them. Paquette and the Roma had a conflict because Paquette was angry at the Roma for being different and living outside the rules of society. She blamed them for many problems, and because of this anger and misunderstanding, her baby was taken. The deformed child left behind is taken to Notre Dame Cathedral, where he is adopted by the stern and brilliant Claude Frollo, a young priest and scholar who names him Quasimodo. Raised in the bell towers, Quasimodo grows up isolated, becoming the deaf and grotesque bell ringer of Notre Dame, feared by the people of Paris. He was named Quasimodo as it carries an ironic double meaning. In literal terms, Claude Frollo named the child Quasimodo because he found him on Quasimodo Sunday, which falls on the first Sunday after Easter. In symbolic terms, the name Quasimodo can be interpreted as almost a man or incomplete, reflecting how society views the character due to his physical deformity. Not fully human, not fully accepted.
What must I do?
Care for the child and raise it as your own.
What? I'm to be saddled with this misshapen... Just so he's kept locked away where no one else can see. The bell tower, perhaps. And who knows, our Lord works in mysterious ways. Even this foul creature may yet prove one day to be of use to me.
Meanwhile, the stolen child Agnes is raised among the Roma and becomes Esmeralda, a beautiful, free-spirited street dancer. She travels Paris with her trained goat, Jolly, and is admired by many. One day, during the chaotic Feast of Fools, the people crown Quasimodo Pope of Fools due to his hideous appearance. The crowd quickly turns cruel, mocking and beating him. After he is publicly flogged and humiliated, Esmeralda alone shows him compassion by giving him water. This act of kindness deeply touches Quasimodo, who silently falls in love with her. The Feast of Fools was a medieval festival held around New Year's or early January. This is where people would celebrate by joking, singing, and acting silly. During this festival, a mock pope, or Pope of Fools, was chosen to lead the fun and mischief. Quasimodo was crowned Pope of Fools because of his unusual appearance and role as the cathedral's bell ringer. Now, the word Pope here is used ironically, meaning a leader or king of the fools, not the actual religious pope.
That's no mask.
It's his face! He's hideous!
It's the bell ringer from Notre Dame. We asked for the ugliest face in Paris, and here he is! Quasimodo, the Hunchback of Notre Dame! To the king!
At the same time, Frollo becomes obsessed with Esmeralda. Tormented by desire, he cannot reconcile with his religious vows. Okay, so by the way, Frollo is an archdeacon, or a high-ranking priest in the Catholic Church, which means he's supposed to live a life of strict religious discipline. In a fit of lust and jealousy, he commands Quasimodo to kidnap her, but the attempt fails when she is rescued by the handsome Captain Phoebus, with whom she immediately falls in love. Not long after, Pierre Gringoire, a struggling poet and philosopher, stumbles into the Roma stronghold, known as the Court of Miracles. Okay, so a Roma stronghold means a hidden or protected place where the Roma, also known as gypsies, live and gather. Kind of like a secret community or safe area. Pierre was about to be executed because the Roma thought he was an outsider or a spy. In their secret community, strangers who didn't belong were often punished, and sometimes even with death. There, Esmeralda saves him from execution by marrying him symbolically for 4 years. Though their marriage is platonic, Gringoire becomes a reluctant ally and a minor comic figure throughout the tale. Esmeralda's infatuation with Phoebus blinds her to his arrogance and moral weakness. Hoping for a romantic encounter, she meets Phoebus one night at an inn. Frollo, having followed them, hides and watches as Phoebus flirts with Esmeralda. Consumed by jealousy, Frollo stabs Phoebus, who survives but loses consciousness before identifying his attacker. Esmeralda faints and is soon arrested for attempted murder and witchcraft. Under torture, she falsely confesses, and her trial, presided over by Master Jacques Charmolue, ends in a death sentence. She is completely unaware that Phoebus is alive and has abandoned her. At a time in history, torture was commonly used to force confessions, even from innocent people. Esmeralda is in terrible pain and fear, and under that pressure, she says what her accusers want to hear. just to make the torture stop. Just before her execution, Quasimodo rescues her, carrying her into the cathedral and claiming sanctuary, which temporarily protects her under church law. So in medieval times, sanctuary referred to the protection offered by the church to anyone who sought refuge in a holy place, like a cathedral. According to church law, authorities could not remove or harm someone who had claimed sanctuary without violating religious rules.
Quasimodo!
While hiding in the cathedral's towers, Esmeralda and Quasimodo develop a bond. Though she does not return his romantic feelings, she begins to appreciate his kindness and devotion. During this time, Frollo's madness worsens. He gives Esmeralda a cruel ultimatum, or this is a strong and final demand. Submit to him or die. When she refuses, he betrays her by handing her over to the authorities. Frollo gives Esmeralda an ultimatum because he is consumed by obsession and jealousy. He believes that if he can't have her, no one should. His feelings have become so twisted that he uses power and position to try to control her. Meanwhile, a band of outcasts from the Court of Miracles, led by Clopin, attempt to storm Notre Dame to save Esmeralda, mistakenly believing she is still inside. Quasimodo, not understanding their true intentions, defends the cathedral, killing many of them with stones, boiling lead, and brute strength. Frollo then delivers Esmeralda to her final death sentence. Okay, so the group of outcasts is known as the Roma, and their leader is Clopin. On the day of the execution, Esmeralda is hanged in the Place de Grève. Watching from a tower, Frollo experiences twisted satisfaction, but Quasimodo, devastated and enraged, pushes him from the cathedral, sending him to his death on the pavement below. In the chaos of her final moments, Sister Gudule realizes that Esmeralda is her long-lost daughter Agnes, but the revelation comes too late to save her. The two embrace briefly before Esmeralda is taken away. After Frollo's death, Quasimodo disappears from Notre Dame, his fate unknown. Years later, when workers open a mass grave at Montfaucon, they discover two skeletons, one of a woman and one of a deformed man curled around her. When they attempt to separate the remains, the man's bones crumble to dust, a silent testimony that Quasimodo had come to die beside Esmeralda, the only person who ever showed him love. The story ends with a bitter final irony. Phoebus survived and married, which Hugo darkly notes was its own kind of tragedy. Let's proceed to the different elements of the story. The story revolves around Quasimodo, the deformed bell ringer of Notre Dame Cathedral, and his love for the beautiful gypsy Esmeralda. Okay, so the term gypsy is a historically used word to describe the Romani people, an ethnic group of traditionally nomadic people with roots tracing back to northern India. Okay, so they migrated to Europe around 1,000 years ago. It includes themes of love, betrayal, social injustice, and tragedy, with events like Esmeralda's persecution, Quasimodo's heroic acts, and the downfall of the antagonist, Claude Frollo. The novel is set in 15th century Paris, with the action centered primarily around the Notre Dame Cathedral. The cathedral is more than just a backdrop. It is a symbolic and thematic centerpiece of the novel. It represents both sanctuary and imprisonment, as well as faith and hypocrisy. There are three different types of conflict in this novel. First is man versus society. Okay, so Quasimodo and Esmeralda both face social rejection. Next, internal conflict. Frollo's battle between his religious duties and his lust for Esmeralda. And then, man versus man. The clashes between Frollo, Quasimodo, Phoebus, and Esmeralda. It is in a third-person omniscient. Omniscient means all-knowing. Therefore, the narrator knows the thoughts, feelings, and backgrounds of multiple characters, including Quasimodo, Esmeralda, and Frollo. Another important aspect of the story is its tone, or the author's attitude toward the subject, characters, or audience, which significantly affects the reader's experience. First, dark and tragic. The novel is filled with suffering, doomed love, injustice, and death. Next, melancholic. Okay, so when we say melancholic, it is feeling sad in a deep and quiet way, not angry or upset, but thoughtful and a little gloomy. Okay, so there's a constant sense of sadness and loss, especially regarding misunderstood characters like Quasimodo and the cruelty of society. Romantic. In the literary sense, Hugo's writing is a part of the Romantic movement, so the tone includes passionate emotions, a focus on the grotesque and sublime. Okay, so when we say grotesque, it means strange, ugly, or even frightening, while sublime is the total opposite, which means beautiful and powerful. And a deep reverence for beauty, nature, and art, especially the cathedral itself. Okay, so when we say reverence, it means a deep respect or honor. Critical. Hugo criticizes the church, the justice system, and the society's treatment of the marginalized. Okay, so critical means expressing disapproval or judgment about something. So when Hugo is critical, he is pointing out flaws, problems, or mistakes in society, the church, or the justice system. He isn't just telling a story. He's also judging how unfair or wrong certain things are.